Klaus Schwab wrote something in his book that should make every human being pause. He wrote that the fourth industrial revolution will not just change what we do, it will change who we are. Not metaphorically, not philosophically. Literally. He wrote about technologies that will blur the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. Technologies that will be implanted in our brains, woven into our bodies, integrated into our very identity. And he didn't present this as science fiction. He presented it as inevitable, as necessary as the next stage of human evil. But here's what he didn't say. Here's what gets buried beneath all the talk of enhancement and progress. When technology merges with biology, when machines integrate with consciousness, when your thoughts become data and your body becomes an interface, you're not enhanced. You're connected. You're readable. You're controllable. And the people designing these technologies, the corporations building these systems, the institutions coordinating this transformation, they're the same people who brought you the Great Reset. The same people who want you to own nothing. And now they want to own something far more valuable than your property. They want to own you. Your body, your mind, your biological sovereignty. This is transhumanism, and it's not coming. The story begins not with Klaus Schwab, but with an older dream, an older obsession, the desire to transcend human limitations, to overcome death, to merge with machines and become something more. This isn't new. Humanity has always sought enhancement tools, weapons, medicine. Each generation finds ways to extend capability beyond natural limits. But something changed in the late 20th century, something fundamental. As computing power exploded, as artificial intelligence emerged, as genetic engineering became possible, the nature of enhancement transformed. It stopped being about external tools, started being about internal modification, about changing the human organism itself, and a movement was born. Transhumanism. The belief that humans should use technology to overcome biological constraints, to eliminate disease, to extend lifespan, to enhance intelligence, to merge with artificial intelligence and become something new, something better, something ... beyond human. And for decades, this remained the domain of philosophers and futurists. Interesting ideas, provocative questions, but nothing immediate, nothing real, until the technology caught up with the vision, until CRISPR made genetic editing accessible, until neural interfaces became feasible, until artificial intelligence surpassed human capability in specific domains. And suddenly transhumanism stopped being philosophy and became engineering. It became an investment, it became policy, and the people who had been talking about human enhancement for decades, they saw their opportunity not just to improve human capability, but to fundamentally restructure what it means to be human. And they found their champion, their coordinator, their institutional framework, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In 2016, Schwab published a book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And in it, he outlined a vision that goes far beyond automation or artificial intelligence. He wrote about active implantable microchips that break the skin barrier of our bodies, about smart tattoos and biological computing, about editing genomes and modifying heredity. He wrote about technologies already in development that will transform how we live, work, and relate to one another. But more than that, ... He wrote about how these technologies will transform our sense of identity, our understanding of privacy, our relationship to our own biology. And he presented this not as a choice, but as an inevitability, as something that will happen whether we want it or not, as a transformation so fundamental that resisting it is like resisting gravity. But who's driving this transformation? Who's funding the research? Who's building the infrastructure? Start with Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain-computer interface company. They've already implanted chips in human brains, successfully demonstrated that people can control computers with thought. And Musk has been explicit about the goal. It's not just about helping perilous people communicate. It's about enhancing normal human cognition, about competing with artificial intelligence, about merging human consciousness with machine intelligence to create something new. And the World Economic Forum celebrates this. Features Neuralink in discussions. Presents brain implants as the future of human-computer interaction, as inevitable as smartphones. Then there's genetic engineering. CRISPR technology has made it possible to edit human DNA with unprecedented precision. And it's not just about curing disease anymore. Scientists in China have already created genetically modified babies, edited embryos to be resistant to HIV. And while there was international outcry, while regulations were discussed, the technology didn't go away. It advanced, it became more accessible. And now there are dozens of companies working on genetic enhancement, not therapy. Enhancement, designing stronger, smarter, longer-lived humans. And the World Economic Forum hosts panels on this, discusses governance frameworks, coordinates between governments and corporations to ensure this technology develops in ways that serve exactly. Who benefits when genetic enhancement becomes available? The wealthy, the connection, the people who can afford to engineer superior children, while everyone else stays baseline human, unmodified, inferior. Do you see where this goes? Do you understand what they're building? This isn't science fiction. This is investment. This is policy. This is technology being developed right now in labs funded by governments and corporations worldwide. And it's all being coordinated through institutions like the World Economic Forum, through multi-stakeholder governance that includes no input from the billions of people whose nature is being fundamentally altered. Because that's the thing about transhuman. It's not a personal choice when the technology becomes ubiquitous. When brain implants are required for employment, when genetic enhancement becomes standard for birth, when refusing modification means being left behind, unable to compete, unable to participate in society, then it's not a choice. It's coercion. It's transformation by necessity. It's the elimination of natural humanity through economic and social pressure. And Klaus Schwab wrote about this explicitly. He wrote that the fourth industrial revolution will lead to a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identity. That technologies will become so integrated into our lives that they'll be impossible to distinguish from our bodies and minds. And he presented this as exciting, as the pinnacle of progress. But think about what it actually means. When your biology is integrated with digital systems, your body becomes hackable. When your thoughts interface with computers, your consciousness becomes data. When your genes are edited, your heredity becomes intellectual property. You're not enhanced. You're transformed from a sovereign individual into a connected node in a system you don't control. Lifestyles, while they promote the exact opposite for everyone else. Could it be that they understand something they're not saying? That they know the risks they're encouraging others to accept? That transhumanism isn't about enhancing humanity, but about creating two classes, the modified and the natural, the connected and the sovereign, the controlled and the free, because that's the future they're building. Not human enhancement, human division. The creation of a biological hierarchy where those integrated into systems serve those who remain outside them, where modified humans optimized for specific functions become biological infrastructure for societies managed by unmodified elites who retain their human autonomy. This is neo-feudalism written in genetic code. This is slavery disguised as enhancement. This is the final capture, not of your property, not of your money, but of your body, your biology, your very identity as a sovereign human being. And once that transformation is complete, once humanity is divided into modified and natural, into connected and sovereign, into those integrated into systems and those controlling systems from outside, there's no going back. Because biological modification is permanent. Genetic changes are heritable. Neural implants alter brain structure. Once you merge with machines, once you edit your genome, once you transform yourself from a natural human into something else, you can't reverse it. You can't uninstall your biology. You can't opt out of systems integrated into your body. You're captured forever, and your children will be born into a world where natural humanity is extinct, where baseline humans are considered primitive, where refusing modification is not just economic suicide, but biological obsolescence. Is that the world you want? Is that the legacy you're willing to accept? Because it's being built right now. Not in secret, not in hidden labs, openly, proudly, with billions in funding and institutional coordination. Klaus Schwab wrote the manifesto. The World Economic Forum provides the coordination technology companies build the tools. Governments create the regulatory frameworks, and everyone else is expected to accept it, to believe that resistance is futile, that enhancement is inevitable, that merging with machines is the only path forward. But it's not. It's a choice. Their choice, being imposed on you through economic pressure, social coercion, and institutional power. And the only way to stop it is to refuse to insist on biological sovereignty, to defend the right to remain naturally human, to reject the premise that technology integration is progress rather than control. Think about what they're really asking you to accept. Not medical treatment for disease, not assistance for disability, but fundamental transformation of human nature itself. The elimination of privacy at the biological level, the commodification of consciousness, the corporate ownership of genetic code, the integration of human beings into digital surveillance networks. This is an enhancement. This is absorption. This is the end of humanity as an autonomous species and the beginning of humanity as biological machinery in service to systems controlled by institutional power. And the technologies exist now. Neural interfaces are functional. Genetic editing is accessible. AI systems can process biological data at scale. The infrastructure for transhumanism is operational. The only thing preventing full implementation is resistance. Is people saying no? Is enough individuals refusing to accept that their bodies should be modified, monitored, and controlled for alleged collective benefit? But that resistance is being systematically eroded through crisis, through propaganda, through economic coercion, through making modification a requirement for participation in society. And once the threshold is crossed, once modification becomes standard, it becomes irreversible because you can't compete with enhanced humans as a natural human. You can't function in systems designed for implanted interfaces. You can't raise natural children in societies that require genetic certification. The system becomes self-perpetuating, self-enforcing, and natural humanity. Natural humanity becomes extinct. This is the stakes. This is what Klaus Schwab means when he writes about transforming what it means to be human. He's not talking about improving human life. He's talking about ending human sovereignty, about creating a new species, a modified species, a controlled species, a species that exists in permanent integration with digital surveillance systems owned by corporations and managed by unelected institutions. And he presents this as inevitable, as necessary, as the only way to address climate change, inequality, and instability. But it's not. It's a power grab. It's the final consolidation of control. It has the transformation of human beings from autonomous individuals with inherent rights into connected nodes in a system where autonomy is not just discouraged. It's biologically impossible. So what do? How do you preserve human sovereignty when the entire institutional apparatus of global power is coordinating to eliminate it? First, you refuse consent. You reject the premise that your body is a platform for technological integration. You defend biological privacy. You resist digital health certificates and biological monitoring and genetic testing that feeds data into corporate systems. Second, you build alternatives. You create communities of natural humans who support each other without technological dependency, who preserve knowledge of how to exist outside digital systems, who maintain human connection without algorithmic mediation. Third, you expose what's happening. You share this information. You help others understand what transhumanism really means, what they're really giving up when they accept enhancement, what they're really joining when they integrate with machines. Because the power of this system is secrecy, is complexity, is the assumption that ordinary people can't understand biotechnology or neural interfaces or genetic engineering. But you can understand autonomy. You can understand consent. You can understand that when someone wants to put technology inside your body, modify your genes, connect your brain to computer systems, they're asking you to surrender sovereignty, to accept control, to transform from a free human into a managed organism. And once you see that, once you understand what's being taken and disguised as progress, you can't unsee it. You can't accept it. You can't let them do this to you, to your children, to your species. The fourth industrial revolution is not inevitable. Transhumanism is not progress. The merger of humans with machines is not enhancement. It's capture. It's control. It's the final transformation that makes all other forms of resistance impossible, because resistance requires autonomous consciousness. And consciousness integrated with digital systems is not autonomous. It's readable. It's predictable. It's controllable. And once that transformation is complete, once human biology becomes technological infrastructure, freedom becomes technically impossible. Not just difficult, not just restricted, impossible. Because you can't, if you're feeling a chill run down your spine, if you're restarting to understand that what they're recalling enhancement is actually the end of human autonomy, then you need to see what's already being implemented. Because this isn't future speculation, this is the current reality. Subscribe right now. Turn on notifications, because what we're about to reveal will change how you see your own body and what you're willing to let them do to it. The infrastructure for transhumanism is being built in layers, each one seeming reasonable in isolation, each one solving a specific problem. But together, together they create a framework for total biological surveillance and control. Start with wearable technology, smartwatches that monitor heart rate, fitness trackers that record movement, devices that have become so normalized that millions of people voluntarily wear sensors feeding data to corporate servers. And this data, this biological data, it reveals everything: your location, your health, your stress levels, your sleep patterns, your reproductive cycles, everything. And it's being collected, stored, analyzed by companies that sell it to insurers, employers, governments. Your biology is being monetized without your meaningful consent. And this is just the beginning, because wearables are external, removable. The next stage is internal, permanent. The smartphone was the prototype, the proof of concept, a device that seemed like a tool but became an extension of identity. People check phones hundreds of times per day, sleep with them beside their beds, feel anxiety when separated from them. The phone didn't enhance human capability, it captured human attention, made people dependent, created addiction pathways that rewired behavior. And now they want to do the same thing with implants. Remove the inconvenience of having to hold a device. Just put it inside you. Make it permanent. Make it biological. And present this as convenience, as an enhancement, as the natural evolution of human-computer interaction. But here's what changes when technology moves from external to internal. When you hold a phone, you can put it down. You can turn it off. You can leave it at home. You maintain sovereignty. But when the technology is implanted, when it's surgically integrated into your body, you can't remove it. You can't opt out. You can't escape surveillance or control or whatever functions are programmed into the device. And those functions, those capabilities, they're not fixed. They're updatable remotely without your permission. Just like software updates on your phone that change features and remove functionality, implanted technology can be modified at will by whoever controls the system. And who controls the system? The corporations that manufacture the devices, the platforms that provide connectivity, the governments that regulate access. Everyone except you. And then there's genetic engineering, the ability to modify human DNA. They present this as a medical breakthrough, as a cure for genetic disease. And in isolation, that seems benevolent, seems like pure progress. But the technology doesn't distinguish between therapy and enhancement. The same tools that can cure sickle cell anemia can increase muscle mass. The same techniques that eliminate genetic disease can engineer intelligence, appearance, temperament. And once that's possible, once humans can be designed rather than born, what happens to natural reproduction? What happens to genetic diversity? What happens when some children are enhanced and others aren't? You create a biological caste system, a genetic aristocracy. People who are literally superior by design, and everyone else. Everyone who can't afford enhancement or refuses it on principle, they become the baseline humans, the unmodified, the obsolete. The World Economic Forum discusses this openly. They host panels on human enhancement, on genetic engineering governance, on the ethics of transhumanism. But notice what they never discuss. whether it should happen at all. Whether humans have the right to remain unmodified, whether there's value in natural biology, in evolutionary diversity, in the limits that define human experience, those questions are off the table. The assumption is that enhancement is inevitable. The only question is how to manage it, how to govern it, how to ensure it develops in ways that serve institutional interests. And what are those interests? Control, optimization, the ability to design human beings for specific functions, for maximum productivity, for minimal resistance, for perfect integration into systems that require compliance and predictability. This is what the fourth industrial revolution is really about. Not economic transformation, biological transformation. The merger of humans with machines isn't about enhancing individuals. It's about connecting individuals to systems, making biology readable by algorithms, making consciousness accessible to surveillance, making the human body itself an interface for control. And they're doing this through the same mechanisms as the Great Reset, through crisis and coordination, through benevolent language hiding authoritarian implementation, through making refusal seem irrational, selfish, or impossible. COVID-19 provided perfect cover for this acceleration. Vaccine passports normalized biological verification. Digital health certificates created infrastructure for biological monitoring. Contact tracing normalized surveillance of movement and association. And now that infrastructure is being expanded, being used for purposes that have nothing to do with pandemic response. Digital identity systems linked to biological data. Health monitoring required for access to employment, travel, services. Social credit systems incorporating biological compliance. It's all connected, all part of the same architecture, all moving toward a future where your body is not your own, where biological sovereignty is considered an obstacle to public health, to collective security, to systemic efficiency. And the World Economic Forum coordinates all of this. They bring together governments, corporations, technology companies, biotech firms, pharmaceutical companies. They facilitate partnerships. They write governance frameworks. They shape public perception through media relationships. They make transhumanism seem inevitable, desirable, progressive, and anyone who questions it, anyone who expresses concern about bodily autonomy or biological sovereignty or the right to remain natural human, they're labeled as backwards, as as standing in the way of progress, because that's how this works. That's how institutional power always works. Make resistance seem irrational. Make acceptance seem inevitable. Make compliance the only reasonable choice. But here's what they can't explain away. Here's the question that shatters their entire narrative. If brain implants and genetic modification and biological integration with digital systems are so beneficial, why are the elites who promote them so careful about their own exposure? Why do tech executives limit their children's screen time? Why do Silicon Valley billionaires send their kids to schools that avoid technology? Why is there a growing movement among the wealthy toward organic food, natural childbirth, think thoughts that aren't monitored, can't make choices that aren't influenced, can't exist in ways that aren't mediated by systems you don't control? This is the end game. This is what all the other pieces we're building toward. The financial control, the property consolidation, digital surveillance, all of it creates the conditions for biological integration. All of it prepares society to accept that humans must merge with machines to survive in the world being built. But that world, that integrated, monitored, optimized world, it's not being built for you. It's being built to control you, to eliminate the possibility of resistance, to create permanent institutional power that can never be challenged because challengers can be identified, monitored, and modified before they become threats. This is totalitarianism. This control is so complete that it operates at the biological level. This is the end of human freedom, unless enough people understand what's happening and refuse to accept it. If this has fundamentally changed how you see the technological future being sold as inevitable progress, if you understand that what they're calling enhancement is actually enslavement, then you need to see what we reveal next. Because transhumanism is just a biological component of a larger transformation. There's an economic component, a social component, a spiritual component, and they're all converging right now in a coordinated effort to restructure human civilization itself. The people behind this call it the New World Order. And it's not a conspiracy, it's a policy. It's documented. It's being implemented through institutions most people have never heard of. Subscribe now, share this everywhere, and prepare yourself for the complete picture of what they're building. Because once you see it all, once you understand how every piece fits together, you'll realize we're out of time. The transformation is nearly complete, and the only question left is whether enough people wake up before the cage locks forever. Because this cage isn't made of bars, it's made of biology. And once you're inside, there's no escape ever.